So we had this thought of having the roller beetle be a really fast sort of like a dirt bike or something, where it could ramp up things, go wee, go flying in the air. Just as it's a fun, different type of movement from like the Griffin dives and flies, Raptor leaps across canyons. This more uses momentum, and it's all about maintaining speed and using momentum to launch off of stuff.
We knew Roller Beetle was a mount that we wanted to do from the beginning. This is something we've been thinking about for a long time.
It's very much a precious creature to a lot of players from Guild Wars 1.
So we wanted to look back at Guild Wars 1 Roller Beetles for inspiration.
And it's just this cute little beetle thing that rolls up and is this fast-moving, drifting creature that you can really have fun with.
Roller Beetles is super cute. Getting to work with that was really fun. I think one of the interesting challenges with it is there were a lot of hands on the project. I worked primarily on the acquisition for the Roller Beetle, the collection behind it. A lot of people don't really look at the items you collect beyond them being boxes to check off to get the goal, the thing you're trying to get. If you ever really look at the items are in a collection and why they're there, you often find that they tell kind of their own story. That kind of thing can really add a lot of character to the whole process.
The main thing for the Roller Beetle is he rolls. So we had to figure out a way to build the model that it could animate into the ball and roll effectively. We wanted a nice, clean, rolling beetle. So I worked with Kate real closely on crafting the shell.
When I started out, I was given a concept sculpt that a couple other artists had already started working with. The concept sculpt that I was given is the start of the visual look of the mount, really solid direction for the overall aesthetic. And then what I did was I went in and worked hand in hand with the animator to do a lot of motion tests, see if this original concept would work for the type of look that he wanted for animation, and then going in and doing a lot of refining on the high detail as well as the development on the face.
Where the player rides, it definitely was more tricky on this mount because there's no natural place for a rider to sit on this mount because it's kind of this rolling ball of a creature. We did some exploration on what it would look like with a saddle mounted on top of it that kind of stayed at the top while it rolled around like a unicycle. We went a few different directions with that, but ended up going with more the speed bike feel.
When they had started, they had done a motorcycle, but it had a lot more of like a motorcycle vibe. Like if you looked at it, you'd be like, that's a motorcycle. You know, we decided we'd go for more of like an obvious Asura aesthetic. So we ended up with some bigger, simpler shapes and then some cool little patterns that you see on like the other Asura type characters in the game. You don't want to just throw a Ducati into Guild Wars.
My role on the project was designing and implementing the sound of the Roller Beetle. Audio typically comes in at the end of a project. Our work is dependent on art and design being finished first. So we typically come in and I like to say we give the content life. We do work along the way with designers and artists and seeing the creature, seeing its concept, trying to discovering what kind of attitude does it have, what should this sound like, what assets do I need to get, either pulling from our libraries or do I need to record some new content. For the Beetle's vocalization, I used a bicycle on its back and we spun the tires and we took some rubber and applied it to the tire as it was rotating to get some like squealing sounds. That's mainly what the vocalization of the Beetle is. It's kind of like a rubber on rubber screeches. So for coming up with the engine sounds of the bike, I used my Moog Theremin. That is Moog's digital theremin. A theremin is a synthesized instrument that uses two antennae to modulate pitch and volume. So I want a build-up sound. I would take my left hand away and put my right hand closer and kind of get louder and higher in pitch.
The Roller Beetle actually can sense when it's going downhill to actually gain some speed. So if you find this really long slope, you can actually get going pretty fast.
Rolling down hills, especially accelerating down hills and stuff, is something new that we hadn't really done before. What we needed it to do is to be really good at conforming to terrain and then using gravity to pull it down hills and then slow it down when it goes up hills. It's tech that's similar to what we built for the Griffin, just taken to a greater degree. It's a little more complicated.
We actually looked into how fast it goes. It's basically like strapping a human to a rocket and then turning it on and just go. The Griffin technically can go the exact same amount of speed as the roller beetle, just not as easily.
It's very fast, hard not to hit things. And in addition to that, it also doesn't turn very well at high speeds, which is sort of sets it apart from a lot of the other mounts that we've got.
But then we have the drift mode, so you kind of sacrifice some speed for gaining back some control of your character.
A lot of the things that we need to do around that is making sure that the roller beetle has its niche, its thing that it's good for, and just kind of making sure that its movement felt really good. So a lot of our early iteration stuff was, running through, making tweaks, seeing kind of what we wanted to do with it.
And that's what led us to adding things like breaking through walls to find these hidden cache areas throughout the maps.
There are also crystals lined throughout the map that if you're going fast enough, you basically just run them right over and you collect volatile magic.
We were inspired by a variety of sources. Wouldn't it be cool if while you're in the air, you can do tricks? Like hang off the back of your Beetle bike.
At first, it was actually going to be more like motocross. Like we would be able to bank off things, and depending on if you landed those tricks correctly, you would get your endurance back, which means you'd be able to boost better. Or you would wipe out, which means that you would get dismounted. We wanted to keep that feel of the motocross stuff, of the tricks that we had implemented, but we wanted to make it more streamlined to make sure that everybody would be able to do it. It didn't feel punishing.
So do a trick in the air. It's real simple. You just get lots of air, and then you push the jump button. And so what that does is while you're doing that, it causes your energy to regenerate faster. So if you are playing well and finding little ramps and getting lots of air time, you can do little tricks in the air, you recover your energy faster, let's use your boost again.
And we've incorporated part of the map, more specifically the northeast part. There's just dunes that you can bank off of everywhere and do some crazy tricks, and it's really cool.
The sort of overall objective with all the mounts we make is we try to change how you perceive what the world looks like. So for example, when you're on the Griffin, you could see some cliff up there and you go, if I can just get up there somehow, I can dive off it and then go wherever. And so the roller beetle is the same way, where now that I've been driving around on it a while, whenever I see shallow hills and things like, oh man, I just need to go down that and I'll go fast.
We want you to go think about how you can really use it in the world and go back to the other areas and kind of look at the maps with a new light. I'm sure you'll find a bunch of areas for the roller beetle to really take advantage of it, even ways we didn't think of yet.
That is what we try to do with all of the mounts. Make it change perception of the world in some way. And that's why they're so hard to make.